Hey everybody, welcome to Harry's Music Room. This video is going to be a contest entry for Gav's music trip, and he's just reached a little over 100 subscribers, so he wanted to celebrate by doing a contest. And I enjoy doing these contests because it gives me a theme to work with. Since I'm fairly new to all this vinyl community video thing, it gives me some ideas to work with, and I like that. So, and as I do my videos, I'm getting a little more comfortable with it. So bear with me, and if you like any of what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button, as they say, and like it or don't like it, either way. So anyways, let's get started. The contest is for albums that came out during the year in which you were 23 years old. For me, that would be 1977. I actually turned 23 in November of 76, but because that was so close to 77, primarily my 23rd year was in 1977, so I'm picking albums from that year. So we're going to start out with one of my favorite albums, Running on Empty. This happens to be a promotional copy. It was Jackson's fifth album, and the entire album was recorded on tour, either live on stage or in hotel rooms, on the bus, or at sound checks, something like that. But it's to this day remains probably his biggest selling, most popular album. It was not nominated for Album of the Year, but unfortunately did not win. It lost out to this album, Fleetwood Mac's Rumors. This particular pressing is a 2-album, 45 RPM pressing from Palace in Germany, which is supposed to be the very best sounding version of this album that's available at the moment. Huge album. Sold 10 million copies in its first month, but then it kind of died out and only sold another 30 million after that. So that's my dry humor, I guess. Anyways, it did win Album of the Year. Rolling Stone magazine, in its 500 greatest albums of all time, picks this to be number 7. And then next we go to an album that unfortunately has a sad story to go with it. Lynyrd Skynyrd's Street Survivors. 3 days after this album was released, the band's plane crashed with 3 members of the band dying. Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Gaines, and Cassie Gaines, who was the sister of Steve Gaines and was a backup singer. The family requested that the album cover be changed because of the flames. And this is a fairly recent reissue on colored vinyl. Nothing like a money grab from MCA, I guess. But the family requested that the album cover be changed, so they removed the flames, and the new cover uses the photo that was on the back of the original album. And it just has the band in black. And then on the back, instead of this photo, just the song titles. Fantastic album. So many good songs. What's Your Name? That Smell. I Know a Little. You Got That Right. Honky Tonk. Nighttime Man. That just is one of their best albums. Sad story that they passed. And then after Street Survivor, in 1977, I was in the Air Force. I was stationed at McCord Air Force Base as a security police desk sergeant. So the communicator plotter. Basically, I communicated with all the vehicles and people out on post, and they would report in, and kind of like a desk sergeant for a police department. Anyways, I had to go to Texas for temporary training, and I had been talking with a fellow guy in the Air Force who was talking about this next band, and I said I'd never heard of them, and he said, "Oh man, I'm gonna make you some tapes." So he made me cassette tapes of the first three albums, and this is their third album. And I took those cassette tapes with me and listened to them in my car all the way from Tacoma, Washington to San Antonio, Texas, and back. And that was the first three AC/DC albums. This is their third album. The first one to use this logo that they're famous for now. But I love them. I love AC/DC. Both incarnations of the bands. I've only been able to see them once, about 10 years ago. Great show, but just one of my favorite bands. And then we come to another of my all-time favorite albums, Supertramp's Even in the Quietest Moments. This was their fifth album. This sheet music that you see here on the piano that says Fool's Overture is actually sheet music for the Star Spangled Banner. This is not only is it my favorite album, but my favorite song is Fool's Overture. But every song on here is great. Even in the Quietest Moments, Give a Little Bit, Loverboy. Fantastic album. And that takes us to, I remember when I first heard this artist, I called one of the local radio stations, and I said, in Tacoma, Washington at the time, and I asked them if they would play a song by this guy. And he said, "We don't play that kind of music here." That's Elvis Costello, My Aim Is True, his debut album. The backing band on this album was a band called Clover, who was an American country rock band from Mill Valley, California. Members of that band later went on to play with Huey Lewis and News, Doobie Brothers, Toto, Lucinda Williams. And then for a 180-degree turn, we come to the last album that I'm picking from 1977. We go from Elvis Costello to Saturday Night Fever and the Bee Gees. What can I say about this? Changed music overnight. This album came out, the movie came out, and bam, disco took off. This is the second best selling movie soundtrack album next to The Bodyguard. This album has sold over 40 million copies. Spent 24 straight weeks from January to July of 78 at the top of the Billboard charts, and was on the charts for 120 weeks. One thing about this album, original pressings have the song Jive Talking, which is a studio version. Reissues of it replace the studio version with the live version off of their album Here at Last, Bee Gees Live. So you might want to, if this is an album you like, you might want to look to see if you have the original studio version or a live version. Anyways, those are my picks for songs that came out when I was 23 years old. I don't really have any photos of me when I was 23. Everything I have is digital, and I have not figured out how to add this stuff to this. So what I might do is make that photo my thumbnail for this video. Let's see if that'll work. Anyways, thanks for watching and listening, and I'd like to hear your comments if you have any, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.